Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Corner podcast where we answer your cozy career cues. I'm your host, Malcolm Alexander, and I'm thrilled because on today's episode, I'm joined by Samantha Constant. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
We're excited to have you. To start us off, I think, our listeners maybe don't really know. I'm sure they've heard of some of the amazing projects that you've gotten to work on, and they've definitely heard of some of the clients that you've worked with. I mean, HBO, Hulu, like huge, huge, huge people. But to bring it into sort of today, I'd love to hear a little bit about what your current role is and what some of the duties of your current role are. So if you wanted to like walk me through a typical day in your life, that's fine, or you could just sort of explain what your role sort of entails right now.
Yeah, I'm a creative producer. Mostly I've done digital stuff for the last 5 to 6 years, probably, but I started in websites. I started with Sony Picture websites. I was doing a lot of the movie websites and the fun start of social, I guess I would say. For the past few years, I've really been super involved in mostly social marketing and social advertising for movies and TV shows, which is awesome. I really enjoy it. And I think that I just like really my everyday, I work with a lot of different people. It's really about orchestration, I would say. I don't think I even knew that the word producer was like a real job beyond like producers on like television sets or movie sets. And I think it was a really cool opportunity that I was given to like jump into the digital producing world. So like an everyday would be mostly maybe talking to designers, writing cards up, letting them know what is needed, what timing is due, who the audience is, just giving them all the information they would need to actually create. And then you're kind of sitting back and letting them creation happen. And in the background, you might be doing budgets or schedules, timelines, talking with the clients about what their needs are. Sometimes there's a really fun brainstorm that's part of the day where you get to like come up with ideas and think about how you can make the property even more exciting than it already is. But yeah, it's a lot of orchestration and a lot of communication, working with the different teams and figuring out what the best way to get something created is.
Awesome. So very, very um, collaborative, but also super creative, like very, very creatively driven. And that brings me to my next question, which is like if you were to speak to a current student or just a
Mhm.
young professional in the sort of creative production industry, what advice would you give them, I guess, for someone who's maybe just starting out about how do you balance that creativity with having to be collaborative and having to maybe have your ideas shot down or changed really quickly?
Yeah, that definitely happens. I would say the most important thing is to like just start creating. Storytelling is at the heart of all marketing and all advertising. And in order to be good at storytelling, you got to tell stories. So the more you can get creative, the more you can, when I was in college, I used to record my nights out drinking with my friends and then edit them into like little 4 minute videos to share around. And it was just like about telling a story, like figuring out where the cuts go, figuring out where you need to add music, where you have sound ups and when you don't. So all of those things are super important to being able to tell stories, whether they're in digital or more traditional formats. And so my recommendation would be to start creating, start working on projects that you want to on your own time. Think of products that you're like, oh my gosh, like they should be doing this. And instead of waiting for the opportunity, just start creating because the more you create, the better you're going to be at it. And the more opportunities are going to come your way.
I think that's great. I love that you mentioned making little videos while I was recording. Like
I
it's just
recently
like
just found them. Like last weekend, I went through all my television production and the videos that I had made throughout my like freshman and sophomore years mostly. And it was really, I would say reassuring because it kind of just like told me that I've always been a storyteller and that I've always wanted to make meaning out of life. And I think that it just kind of reassured me that I'm in the right career.
absolutely. To throw it back a little bit to those days, if I know not everyone likes to think back on college days always, but I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe some of the skills or like extracurriculars or clubs, things that you feel like you learned in college or started to learn in college that have been fundamental to your career.
Yeah. So I kind of created my own little college experience, to be honest, because when I was in college, there wasn't such a thing as integrated media, which I know you guys have now, which is awesome. So I kind of created my own integrated media major. I started out as television and radio and then switched to cinema and photography. So I really wanted to get a technical understanding of design and how to put a picture together and how the humans like view images, and things like the rule of thirds or the golden rule were really like important in my overall career growth. I would say also just knowing the tools. So I don't work in Photoshop or Final Cut or any editing software on a daily basis, but my understanding of those tools and how they work and how to potentially use them has been instrumental in my career. It's been the most important skill that I've got from college that has impacted my daily, every day. I'm working with editors or animators, and just being able to be like, oh, put this on a different timeline, try matching this. You can put them over each other. Some of it's like kind of basic, but when you're getting into it, sometimes people can get lost and like get confused. And it's really helpful to be able to speak their language. So I would say the best thing that I think it gave me was a really good understanding of the tools and also a good understanding of how to visually put a creation together.
I love that. I love that you emphasize that, like, yes, these technical skills are important because I think, especially for like parkies, it's really easy to get caught up in the technicals, but that there is also other skills that you're building and working on outside of just knowing how to use these programs
Mhm.
that will be super, super helpful.
Yeah, knowing the programs is helpful, but like I said, I'm not in them day to day. I couldn't do an editing project now, not to the level that my resources can at least. So it's really been a good skill to have, but it's not about being perfect in it. It's just about knowing it.
I love that. That's really good. That kind of brings me to my next point, which would be that obviously we're seeing a lot of changes to almost every industry, especially over the past like 5-ish years, especially technologically speaking, with things like AI coming into the fold. I'm curious to hear how you've seen the industry change over the course of your time within it, if there's been anything super
Yeah.
drastic that you had to pivot towards or.
Yeah, like I mean, getting into social was a complete pivot. I like I said, I did start my career in websites. I was building movie websites when movie websites were really a thing. We did some really cool stuff in Flash. We did a website for Looper with an animated clock, pocket watch that like opened and closed as you scroll through the page, and that was like really cutting edge in HTML5, not Flash. So even when I started, we had a Flash department of people that just did Flash for like 10 people in Sony Pictures. And as you know, since the iPhone was released, Flash is no longer really a thing that anyone programs in anymore. So that was a big change in general, from going from Flash animators to more like movie video animators. I would also say the whole social sphere, like jumping in, like TikTok is like something I've only had to deal with in the last like 2 to 3 years, to be honest. And that's like a whole nother way of creating videos that is really different than Instagram or Facebook. So I would say the industry has completely changed since when I started. Movie websites don't even exist anymore. They're usually just splash pages if they have one at all. And the new marketing has really been about engaging fans, and it's about figuring out how to engage them where they are. And a lot of times that's on social media, but some of my favorite campaigns have been when we've been able to reach the fans in multiple ways, not just through social, but like actual activations or in mail, all of those things. So I think it's like a combination of things, but I think overall the industry has changed, and it's just about taking those jobs and those opportunities that allow you to continue moving forward.
Absolutely. We talk a lot about sort of the non-linear career path on this show. That's sort of one of the themes of our show. And I feel like you just perfectly explained how things change, entire industries change, entire
Yeah.
everything you're doing changes. And so being able to pivot, being able to say, okay, I've got these skills, how can I apply these in a different way, maybe, is
Mhm.
just super, super important.
Yeah, and I would just add that like at the heart of everything is storytelling. So like if you're a good storyteller, like you can do it. It doesn't matter the platform, like the technical specifics might change, but like what you're actually creating will not change. You're still trying to interact and resonate with people and create like an emotional response.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear about a pitch that you had or a project that you worked on that you are like especially proud of and think that's awesome. I love that I got to do that.
Yeah, this one's easy. It's Yellowjackets season two for sure. We were the agency of record for Yellowjackets season two. I was a big fan of Yellowjackets before I started working on it, but diving into season two and becoming like an expert of like which episodes certain things happen in, and like knowing all of the actresses' names, and like being able to like literally be like, oh, like Juliette Lewis does this scene in this episode. It's like quarter of the way through. It was actually kind of fun. And we got to read all the scripts ahead of time. So that was even more exciting, to be honest, because who doesn't like to like know what's going to happen in like a hit TV show before it goes live? So Yellow Jackets was a great project though, because of what I was just saying earlier about the integration aspect. We did a really fun thing that won a bunch of Clios, which was really exciting. We deep faked Kurt Loder and made him look like an old MTV News report and talking about the Yellow Jackets being missing. And then we tossed to a website that I produced with a friend. It was like a basic HTML website, like super 90s looking, little animated GIFs on it and everything. And if you like explored that website enough, you ended up with a clue that would drive you to our Instagram page. And if you DM'd us on our Instagram page an offering, which could have been anything, and we accepted almost everything. But if you DM'd us an offering, then we actually asked for your physical mailing address. And then every week during the season, and we actually mailed little glyph. We called them glyph mailers, but they were little pieces of paper with like little glyphs on them that would give you clues to next week's episode. So it was like super interactive, very fan based, like getting into the mysteries, giving them little clues, teasing what's going to come, but not telling them, making them interested enough to have to tune in on that Sunday, not wait to stream it later. Was a big deal. So it was a really fun project. We got awarded a couple Clios for it for Big's Best Social campaign, which was really exciting. It was my first Clio. And yeah, I really am proud of that project. I think it was really cool. We were constantly doing in season lot like assets that were commenting on what fans were saying or were a specific moment that was popping. Sometimes you don't realize what's going to pop when you're watching it the first time versus when the fans are watching it. So, like one example is the little dog that Taisha has in the show. It's a little tiny dog, and for those of you that don't know, she kind of kills her first dog. So, like, she gets the second dog, and like the fans were just like, oh no, like poor dog. So we did like a really funny asset with just like the dog, and it was really easy, really simple, but like got a ton of likes because it was exactly what the fans were asking for.
I love that. That is so, so cool. I feel like that kind of encapsulates the magic of what creative direction can be. It's like not just taking a product and making it more popular, but making it like an experience that people feel like they're
Yes.
really a part of.
Yes, that's definitely the goal. And when you can do that, it's kind of magic.
100%. That's so so cool. To sort of pivot to the opposite end of things,
Mhm.
I'd love to hear about a really challenging moment in your career and sort of how you were able to face that down and keep moving.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back a little bit for this one. I'm going to date myself. I was working, one of my first entertainment campaigns was after Sony at an agency, was Pretty Little Liars. And we were doing a live tweet campaign for the finale. We were supposed to be live tweeting as we were watching the finale. It was really like locked up. It's not like it is in entertainment advertising now where they tend to give you all the episodes or all the scripts and you have a lot more background on the show. This was a situation where they would not give us the finale. So they wanted us to do this live tweet thing, but they didn't want to give us the finale ahead of time. So it was my job to make sure that we could actually get the East Coast feed because we were in LA and obviously the finale is going to premiere on East Coast time, not in Pacific time. So I was tasked with having to figure out how am I going to get this East Coast feed. So I did what I thought I needed to do. I got a VPN, I set it to New York. I made sure it worked. Only problem was I don't really know what's East Coast versus West Coast feed. So like I thought it was working. We all thought it was working. And we're sitting in the room with the clients and we're starting to watch the premiere, getting ready to start our tweeting. We have all our social managers ready, everything's orchestrated. And we start watching it, and like 10 minutes in, it wasn't right away. But like 10 minutes in, we realize that it's not the finale. Like it's clearly the episode before. So it's like clearly on the Pacific time feed still. Like it's not on the East Coast feed. And it was like a moment where like the client's in the room, you're like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna like do this? Like we still like need to deliver something. So what we ended up doing, we did a huge pivot and it worked really successfully was we started watching what the fans were saying. So even though we couldn't see the finale, we could definitely see on Twitter like what moments were standing out, what people were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe she did that," or whatever it is. So we started commenting or creating posts based on what fans were saying versus like actually watching the finale live. Kind of ridiculous, kind of crazy, but like actually was super successful. Like we were able to like really tap in to the conversation in a way that might not have been possible if we were just doing commentary on the finale versus deep diving into like what the fans were saying. So that was definitely an experience. Definitely didn't feel good to be the one responsible and have it not work out, but I was also part of the solution. And in the end, we were able to like pull it off. So sometimes things don't go according to plan, but as long as you're able to like figure out how to pivot and make something meaningful, it's still a success.
That is a great example, man. That is a little bit terrifying, but also like, yeah, that's a fantastic way to pivot and be able to pull things together. I think it's really easy, especially when you're a young person just getting into the world, to think like, oh, once I have a job, nothing is ever going to go wrong ever again. It's just going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So I thank you for sharing that. I think that's really helpful for our listeners to hear about.
Yeah, it's definitely okay to make mistakes. I mean, that's how you're going to get better. It's really how you deal with those mistakes and how you're able to like think on your feet and figure out solutions.
Absolutely. I'd love to throw it back a little bit. As a lot of our listeners are current students, I'd love to hear a little bit about your transition from being a college student to actually entering the
Yeah.
creative directing industry. What was sort of the your pathway with that?
Yeah, well, I graduated in 2009, so not the best year to graduate as far as jobs were concerned. But really, what helped me the most were my internships. Like, I think I had amazing contacts with so many different companies, and there are alumni almost everywhere. And those internships that you're able to get are probably the most important part of starting your career. They're what's going to give you the experience and either to get more internships that are maybe paid but still lower level, and then eventually get your hopefully a job, a real job. And so my career was definitely started with an internship. I did two internships in college. I worked at the NBC, and then I worked at Chiat Day in New York. So got some pretty big, like more big agency experience. And then I would say that sorry as far as like starting a career, I did two internships in school, and then after school I got two more internships. I stayed in the internship world for a little bit. I worked at Disney for a short time, and then I had another internship at a small agency that really helped me take producing seriously and like put me in charge. It was a pro bono client, but it was completely my project. And that experience gave me so much confidence in being able to do this in advertising. Like we did print brochures, we did websites, we did a photo shoot. So like I really got my hands dirty. And I think that was probably the most important thing that led me to the role with Saatchi LA on Toyota. And Saatchi's a great company. It was amazing to have on my resume. Working on Toyota was really good experience. But Sony Pictures kind of came afterwards, and that's really what started my career. I applied to Sony Pictures online, and I was picked up, which is really rare. Usually, you have to know someone, but it is possible to get jobs through applications. Sony Pictures and Apple were both jobs I've gotten without knowing anyone. So, but yeah, just taking those opportunities wherever they are to work on any kind of brand or any kind of product is super helpful. And then kind of just go with the flow, like see what happens. I've been laid off a lot in my career. That's pretty normal in the agency world, as much as it sucks. They lose clients, they close agencies, they start new ones. But remembering the skills that you've learned throughout the way and how you can carry them on is what's going to get you your next opportunity. And whether that's freelancing or a full time opportunity, anything that allows you to keep telling your stories, I think is a positive direction for your future.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about, not always being in the job that might be right for you. Sometimes another opportunity might kind of come out of nowhere. You never know. Like you don't
Yes.
always need to know somebody. So I think that's a really great point to make.
Yeah, just keep trying because you don't know. You really don't know. Like a lot of my favorite positions have not been because I knew someone, and some of them have been. Like I have been reached out from agencies just because it was like, "Oh, I heard your name," or I told someone I was looking for a producer and they mentioned you. So the other thing I would just say is that like networking is really important, especially as you get further in your career. The more people you know, don't burn any bridges. Even if you leave an agency, like you don't know when those people are going to cross your path again and when they might be instrumental in getting you that next position.
Awesome. Well, to close us out, I think you've shared a ton of really, really helpful advice and really helpful experience that our listeners can really pull from. But if you have any sort of final tips, advice, it doesn't even have to particularly be about the industry. It can be more about life in general. Anything you'd like to share, please.
Yeah, the first thing I'll just share is creative doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. And I think that's like so important to remember as you start your career and as you're creating. Sometimes your taste level is going to be better than the actual work you produce. And that's okay. And that doesn't mean that the work you produce isn't good, because if it's fulfilling a need and connecting with people in a certain way or making fans react, getting those likes, getting those shares, even if the creative might not be that good, the purpose behind the creative is the most important thing. So I would say, give yourself a break sometimes when you create something or you're forced to create something that's not exactly what you want it to be. Especially as a producer, you have to let that go and realize the bigger picture of the purpose of what you're creating and whether it will fulfill any of those goals. And then the last thing I just have to do, I'm working on a musical because creating during your free time is super important. So that's like the other thing. I'm just going to reiterate it. Like, create as much as you can, create stories, create moments, create videos, whatever it is that like makes you excited is what's going to like continue feeding your creative juices and allow you to be like really proud and happy with what you're accomplishing.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Man, you are like a creative machine. You could, that's so cool. But that's exactly what you have to do, it sounds like. If you really want to be that, if you want to spend your time creating, spend your time creating. Go out and do it.
Yeah.
Well,
You
thank you
never
so
know. Like, you never know with what the next door is that's going to open is. So the more you're prepared for that, the better you can deal with it.
Exactly. No, I mean, I think that's really great, especially because there's so many, especially here at Ithaca within the park school, there's a lot of people who are into sort of creative things and they might not even know exactly what they want to do. They just know that they want to create something. So I think that
Yeah.
will really ring true.
Yeah, definitely just go with the flow of life sometimes because you don't know what the next chapter is going to be. And you just have to pivot as much as you can. But just like hold on to my biggest advice would be like hold on to the spark. Like, make sure what you're doing excites you still. And, as you can see, like reading the scripts, watching the shows, getting into the strategy has like really been exciting for me. And when you find that thing, it can be really rewarding to like look back 20 years later and be like, I actually created a career in this. And like, it wasn't just like something I thought could happen. Like, it actually happened. So,
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me today, Samantha. I think this was a really great conversation. And I think our listeners are really going to enjoy hearing about your experience, your process, and yeah, everyone get out there and create something. If you're listening, please go do something.
sounds awesome.
Well,
Thank you so
thank
much for having me.
absolutely. Yeah, we're honored to have you. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Career Corner podcast. We will see you very, very soon.